Hello everyone, my name is Mandi Lynn. I am the author of the young adult novel Essence, and I'm going to start off by apologizing because my voice is probably sounding weird because for the last few days I've been sick, stuck inside. There's about 3 feet of snow outside. I don't like it, but I have to deal with it anyways. As you guys can probably tell from the title of this video, this is going to be very different from what I normally talk about. In a few videos in the past, I have mentioned I deal with anxiety and certain things like that, and I just wanted to share maybe the happier side of it and how you can deal with it, because I know that a lot of people, especially people around my age, tend to be dealing with anxiety and depression more and more. And it's not something pleasant at all. Obviously, if you've been through it yourself, you know. And today I'm hoping to share a little bit of my story and to also tell you guys what I've done that I found helps cope with it. Now, first off, I'm going to start by saying I am not at all an expert. I'm telling you what I have learned from personal experience. I have, visited experts for my own sake, but I cannot give you guys advice. I don't have a college degree, anything like that, so don't come to me for advice. I'm giving you guys my own personal experiences, and maybe you can take something out of it. So I just wanted to start off by saying what the difference between anxiety and depression is. Now, anxiety is almost like a constant worrying. I describe it as this little cloud above your head where you are constantly thinking about this one thing, usually one thing that bothers you. It basically stops you from accomplishing anything at all that day because you are so overwhelmed by this thought of worry and constant, and it stops you from doing anything. Whereas depression is different. That's when you are obviously depressed and it's in the same sense where you can't accomplish anything, but it's not necessarily that you're thinking about something that bothers you or worries you. It's just that you are sad and you don't necessarily know why. Now, about a year ago, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and a little bit of depression. It was mostly anxiety, but I can definitely say I noticed the difference between the anxiety and the depression. Anxiety was when I woke up, and as soon as I woke up, worry, 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 whereas the depression was just and there is nothing there. It's almost like you are numb, you see no point in anything, you are just sitting there there's no words to describe depression because it's just, it handicaps you almost. Now, with my anxiety, I was in high school, my senior year of high school actually. I went to a vocational high school and I was in the cosmetology department, and we actually had a salon where we would service clients. Now, I didn't have too many clients because I was actually competing for competition, so instead of clients, I would usually end up practicing for my competition, but at the end of my senior year, the competition was over. I started servicing clients again. That did not end well for me. That was when my anxiety was really bad. And what ended up happening was that every time I had a client, I would have this little freak out episode where I couldn't breathe, and I almost had tunnel vision where I was in my own separate world. I tried to describe it to my instructor as I was in this bubble, and I was completely separate from everyone else. I had no clue what was going on around me, and it felt like if someone tried to talk to me, they would just burst that bubble, and that was all it took for me to basically explode. And basically it felt like if someone touched me, I might actually fall over. In the literal sense, I a lot of the time had a hard time breathing. I didn't always know what triggered the anxiety attacks. But basically, I just freaked myself out a lot of the time, where there was one anxiety attack. The first one had a very legitimate reason as to why it happened, and then every time after that, I just got freaked out about having a client where I would have this episode over and over, and thank God my instructors were very patient with me. They supported me a lot, and they also helped push me to get back on my feet to service clients again. but it happened so I was getting dizzy and I couldn't breathe and like my entire stomach would knot up and I felt like I would be sick and different things like that. It just didn't end well. Now that was an anxiety attack that was basically provoked by myself. I created it all on my own because, you know, anxiety does that. You have, you know, these little episodes. Now, a panic attack is different where you can be completely content and happy and the same thing happens for no absolute reason. Thank God. I don't think I've ever really had a panic attack. Usually, if I have an anxiety attack, it is provoked on my own, and that's the difference between the two. Anxiety, you kind of create by yourself with little thoughts, and a panic attack, on the other hand, comes without provocation. It just happens out of the blue, nowhere. That usually means there is something chemical wrong in your brain where you have to actually take medicine to help it. Luckily, with anxiety attacks, there's coping skills that you can learn. Now, the first thing I want to say with anxiety and depression is that it's completely okay to have, because first of all, in the world today, it's so much more intense. Like, things are a lot more stressful than what they used to be. Not that I used to live back then, obviously, but it's like things are so different these days, and the stress and anxiety levels are just way up here in a different sense. And it's also okay because all it means is that you have this chemical imbalance in your brain. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It doesn't mean if you have anxiety, it means that you don't have proper coping skills. It means that you have to have better coping skills than other people, because inside your brain you don't produce a certain hormone called serotonin that helps balance out things and helps you cope with things naturally. So sometimes you might need medication to help balance that out, but that's not up to me, that's up to your doctor. And if you're like me, I most of the time can cope with things okay. But when I get thrown off and get stressed or upset, usually it ends really badly for me. That kind of throws me off. And if I get really upset, really stressed, it throws me off for months. And it'll take me a while to get back on my feet again. And this has actually happened multiple times. But that's just how I deal with my anxiety. I usually I'm good. Something bad happens in my life. And it throws me off for a long time. How long kind of depends on the situation, but it takes me a while to get back on my feet again. Now, of course, you can take medication to deal with it. I did not want anything to do with medication at all. I don't like taking medicine, even for colds. Obviously, I'm talking with a stuffy nose, but I, at one point, did make the personal decision for medication, and it helped me, and then I went to a higher dose, and it did not help me. In fact, it made it worse. Like, my anxiety was gone, but I could not sleep at night. I was just sitting in my bed like, and which was, you know, okay with me until it became daytime when I had to go to work, and I would, pass out on the couch because I didn't sleep the night before, and I was a walking zombie all day, and I didn't appreciate that, so I don't like my medication, but I do at the same time because it helps me. It's a complicated relationship. It's something you gotta do sometimes. Something that helps me tremendously is writing. Now, obviously, I wrote 2 novels so far. Only one is published. But I also write journals every now and then. I keep an electric journal on my little laptop computer thing. And I would have to say 2014, I have never made so many entries. That's when you can tell how stressed I am. I made probably at least 4 entries every month. That kind of shows how that ended up with me. I had a lot of life changes. You know, graduating high school, that was one thing. There was stuff that happened before that. That was even another thing. And then there was going to college. That was a huge thing. That was terrifying. I almost... my mom offered to let me take a semester off because I was freaking out so bad right before I left, but I said, no, I'm doing this, and then I got there and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, and now I'm back home going to a different college, and yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. Yeah, so there's a lot of life decisions. But anyways, writing. I think my anxiety kind of shows in my writing. I don't know. That's up to you guys. And music is actually a very good therapy. For a while, for personal reasons, I couldn't listen to acoustic guitar without getting really upset. Like that was a trigger automatically for my anxiety. It just like, as soon as I heard it. But because of that, I actually took it upon myself to buy a guitar and cope with that. I now play guitar. I love it dearly, and it basically got rid of my anxiety for guitar. So that's kind of one thing. If you have something that gives you anxiety, you can condition yourself to it not give you anxiety. Like, you just kind of force feed it to yourself so it doesn't bother you anymore. And I was actually very proud of myself because that worked out very well, and for a while there I thought it was only going to make my anxiety worse. Sometimes when I have bad days it does, and most of the time it doesn't, and I just like playing now. Talk therapy I found is actually very good. I actually think I requested to see a therapist from my parents, and I've been seeing her for over a year now, and I love her. She's like my best friend, and I can talk to her about anything. They're great because they're like a third-party influence where they kind of help you and give you input on things that your family would give input on, but they can't really because they're part of your life, so they kind of have like a different opinion on those things. But it's really great just venting. If you aren't a writer and you want to vent verbally, that's a great place to do it. They also give you coping skills. I don't see anything wrong with seeing a therapist. I love seeing my therapist. Another technique that I've stumbled upon by accident is what I call screaming on the top of a mountain. When I was in college, I was having a very bad day, and I was just outright, let's put it this way, depressed. And I had a friend who I called up, and I was laying on my bed staring at the ceiling because that's what I do. And I asked her if we could go to the top of the world. Now, the top of the world is basically this overlook in the town where my college was, where you go up there and you can see everything, look, pretty pictures. And what we did was we drove all the way up there, and I went there and I screamed, like legitimately screamed, got my lungs out, and it hurt my voice really bad. But it was a great relief. It was like taking this huge thing off your shoulders. Plus, we got some really awesome photos while we were up there. I let all my anxiety, my anger out, and that's just how I dealt with that. But most of all, I found that when it comes to anxiety, the biggest thing is to just keep yourself occupied. The last thing you want to do is sit and let yourself think, because if you let yourself think, you get in a bad place. Same thing goes with depression. If you keep yourself busy, you won't have time to sit down and get depressed for no reason. You'll just stay busy, keep yourself moving. Always have activities for yourself, like little hobbies. That's why I read books. When I get upset, I tend to overload myself with work. I don't let myself think about it. I kind of, sort of, in a way, push my feelings away. But it's not that I'm pushing my feelings away. It's just that while I'm at home, I keep myself occupied and busy, so I don't have time to think about the things that bother me. And I put my emotions to the side, and when I go see my therapist, I deal with them then. That's when I talk about my emotions. That's when I know I can safely deal with them. You kind of have to have that safe environment to deal with things sometimes, and that's what works with me. But the one thing I definitely learned is that happiness is a choice. You can wake up in the morning and decide if you're going to have a good day or a bad day no matter what happens. You could be like, okay, this happened, but I'm going to let it go. Or you could be like, okay, that's it, I give up. And you just kind of have to decide how to approach things in your life. But the last thing I'm going to say in this video, because now it's probably very long, and it's that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. I would like to say I don't really feel like I have generalized anxiety disorder anymore. I'd like to say that I kind of have a cap on that, and I have it not bottled up per se, but like contained. Like, I can deal with it in a way. But I have my good days and I have my bad days. I get thrown off my feet easily, but I've gotten better at picking myself back up. And that's just kind of what it is. It's not... Anxiety and depression is a constant thing in your life, and I think the sooner you come to that realization, the sooner you'll be able to deal with it. And once you realize that it's a constant in your life, you'll realize that, you know, I am going to have good days, I am going to have bad days, but I'm going to learn to cope with it so the good outweigh the bad. And it's just kind of realizing that that's a part of being human, too. Like, even if you don't have anxiety disorder or depression, you still have to have these coping skills to deal with things. Anyways, that was my 2 cents on the subject. Let me know down below if you guys have any opinions or if you have any coping skills for yourself. Or just if you want to share your story, you don't have to because that's something really personal. I didn't even really share my story with you because that's something really, really personal. I gave you guys like the glossed up version. That's it. Like, you guys don't even want to know the real version. But anyways, as always, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe. I normally talk about novels and writing and self-publishing, but today I switched it up. Anyways, thank you for watching.